My golden sibling dumped soda on my hair and filmed it while parents watched, so I stopped funding them and got 36 messages pleading for cash. Be me, 30-year-old male named Charlie. Guess I should start from the beginning. For the past 5 years, I've basically been my sister's personal bank account. I'll call her Melissa, she's 27. And I don't mean like, hey, can I borrow $20 for gas type of situation. I'm talking full-on financial support. Rent, utilities, groceries, clothes for her kid, school supplies, everything. I work at this warehouse that ships electronics equipment. It's not glamorous, but pays decent money. If you're willing to work a ton of overtime, which I've been doing basically non-stop since Melissa's husband ditched her. My social life? What social life? Haven't been on a real vacation since 2018. Most weekends I'm either working extra shifts or helping Melissa with something broken around her apartment. It wasn't always like this. Melissa used to be married to this guy. I'll call Trevor. He was okay. Had a steady job as a plumber. They seemed pretty normal. Had a kid together. My niece Lily, who's 7 now and actually pretty cool. But Melissa's always had anger issues. Like she'll seem fine and then just snap over nothing. She'd throw these massive tantrums and scream at Trevor over stupid stuff, like him buying the wrong brand of cereal or not answering her text fast enough. No surprise, he eventually got fed up and left. When Lily was about 2, I still remember getting that call from Melissa at like 11 p.m., sobbing about how Trevor was a selfish asshole who abandoned his family. I later found out he had been telling her for months. He was unhappy, but she didn't take him seriously. Anyway, after the divorce, Melissa couldn't afford her apartment anymore. Her job at the mall paid garbage, and childcare costs are insane. This is where my parents, Victor and Elena, should have stepped in, right? But no, they've been living their retirement dream life since Dad got his pension. They travel like 4 months out of the year and renovated their house with one of those fancy kitchens from TV. When I suggested maybe they could help Melissa out financially, their daughter, Mom just looked at me with this patronizing smile and said, "You're young and capable, Charlie. You don't have any responsibilities yet. Melissa needs help now." So like an idiot, I agreed to temporarily help until Melissa got back on her feet. That was in 2019. It's now 2024. And guess what? Still helping. At first, it was just helping with rent. Then it was rent and utilities, because electricity is so expensive in winter. Then it was groceries, because Lily is growing and needs healthy food. Then it was clothes for Lily, school supplies, after-school activities, a new laptop because Lily needs it for school. She was in 1st grade. New furniture because the old stuff reminds me of Trevor. And on and on and on. Every time I try to suggest maybe cutting back on some expenses, Melissa would pull one of her classic moves. Sometimes she'd start crying about how hard it is being a single mom. Or she'd get super defensive and say, "I'm being cheap." Her favorite tactic was using Lily as a shield. "So you want your niece to go without basic necessities?" And she'd love to remind me how I'm lucky I don't have a family to support. Here's the thing about me. I've always been the family fixer. Middle child syndrome, maybe. I make jokes when things get tense. I try to keep the peace. I don't like conflict. Whenever I hand over money to Melissa that I know I'll never see again, I just make some sarcastic comment like, "Well, there goes my dream yacht." Or, "Guess I'll just have to win the lottery now." Everyone laughs. Situation diffused. But I'm still broke. I actually had dreams once. I was saving for a down payment on a house. Had about $15,000 saved up when Melissa's life imploded. That money? Gone within the first year of helping her. I wanted to take some community college classes, to maybe move up at work or get a better job. Can't afford it now. Even tried to date occasionally. But it's hard to take someone out when you're counting pennies. After paying 2 sets of bills, my buddy Mitch is always telling me I'm being used. Dude, she's a grown woman. She should figure it out like everyone else. But it's not that simple when kids are involved, Lily didn't ask for any of this. And I love that little girl. She's smart and funny, and likes to draw me pictures of dinosaurs wearing hats. How do you say no when you know your niece might suffer? Uncle Frank is the only one in my family who sees through Melissa's act. He pulled me aside at Thanksgiving last year and said, "Kid, you're setting yourself on fire to keep someone warm who's just going to complain it's not hot enough." Frank's always been blunt like that. He offered to loan me money once, but I turned him down. This mess is complicated enough without bringing more family into the financial side. About 8 months ago, Melissa finally landed a decent job as an admin assistant at an insurance office, full-time with benefits. I thought maybe finally things would change. Maybe I could just help with Lily's extras. Or maybe just part of the rent instead of all of it. But the financial demands kept coming, sometimes even more than before, because transitioning to a new job is expensive, somehow. She needed a professional wardrobe, and networking lunches, and all this other crap that sounded suspiciously like, I want to buy new clothes and go out to eat. Meanwhile, I'm still driving my 2010 Honda with 187,000 miles on it, shopping at discount grocery stores, and using my phone until it literally dies because I can't afford a new one. But I kept paying. Because I'm a sucker, I guess. Because saying no feels impossible after saying yes for so long. Because I'm afraid of what would happen to Lily if I cut Melissa off. Because my whole identity in the family is reliable Charlie, who fixes everyone's problems with a smile and a joke. But after Melissa got this new office job, I started noticing weird stuff, not all at once, but like little things that just didn't add up. First off, her money problems somehow got worse instead of better. Before, when she was working part-time at the mall, I kind of understood why she needed help. But now she's making money. Not amazing, but definitely better than before. And she's still hitting me up for cash, just as much. Sometimes even more. One week, she called me saying she couldn't make rent because she had to pay for Lily's school pictures. School pictures cost like $50, but her rent is $1,200. Make it make sense. When I'd go over to her apartment, I started seeing new stuff. Nothing super flashy, but definitely not bargain bin either. New throw pillows, brand name makeup on her bathroom counter. She even got one of those robot vacuum things. Who buys a robot vacuum when they can't afford their electric bill? The real red flag was when she showed up to my parents' house for Sunday dinner, wearing these designer shoes. I only recognized the brand because this girl I dated was obsessed with them. They cost like $300 minimum. When I raised my eyebrow at her, she just shrugged and said they were on sale. On sale for what? $250 instead of $300? That's still ridiculous when I'm over here buying my work boots from Walmart. Then she started getting weird about her phone. She used to just leave it on the table or whatever. But suddenly, she's taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. And she jumped whenever it dinged with a notification. One time I walked in while she was texting, and she literally flipped her phone over, like she was hiding nuclear codes or something. Her schedule got strange too. Before, she was always home with Lily in the evenings. But now she was asking me to babysit more and more, usually last minute. Emergency work thing, she'd say. Or, girls' night, I really need this for my mental health. And look, I get needing social time, especially as a single parent. But it was happening like 2 to 3 times a week. I started noticing how Lily started mentioning stuff that didn't make sense with Melissa's broke single mom story. Like one day I was picking her up from school, and she's telling me about this cool restaurant with the table where they cook in front of you. Obviously a hibachi place. When I asked who took her there, she said, Mommy took me last week. So I'm sitting there thinking, I gave Melissa money for groceries last week because she said they were eating ramen for dinner every night. But somehow she had money for hibachi. That's like $60 to $70 for 2 people easy. Another time Lily was playing with my phone and accidentally opened my Amazon app. She saw some toy and said, I have that. Mommy ordered it for my good grades. It was a $40 toy. Not the most expensive thing ever, but definitely not what someone who can't pay their water bill should be buying. I started paying more attention to Melissa's social media too. She wasn't posting anything suspicious directly, but she was tagging herself at places. Nice restaurants, a winery, some concert venue, always with a group of work friends she'd never mentioned before. When I casually brought up one of these outings, hey, how was that Italian place you went to Tuesday? She got defensive immediately. Are you stalking my Instagram now? Wow, Charlie, controlling much. I backed off because that's what I do. Make a joke. Smooth things over. Pretend everything's fine. Just making conversation, sis. Glad you're making friends at the new job. But I started wondering more and more where my money was actually going. If she can afford girls' nights and hibachi and fancy shoes, why can't she afford rent? Something wasn't adding up. Uncle Frank noticed too. We were helping my dad fix his deck. Well, Frank and I were working while Dad supervised, and Frank just straight up asked me, "You still bankrolling Melissa's life?" I gave some non-answer like, "You know how it is, family helps family." Frank just shook his head. "That girl's taking you for a ride, Charlie. You don't see it because you don't want to, but everyone else does." That kind of stung, because deep down, I knew he was right. Even my buddy Mitch had stopped asking me to go out, because he was tired of hearing I can't afford it, while watching me Venmo my sister hundreds of dollars. I tried bringing it up with my parents once. We were at their house for Dad's birthday, and Melissa had just asked me for money to fix her car the day before, an $800 repair that I'm pretty sure was made up. "Don't you think it's weird that Melissa still needs so much help, even with her new job?" I asked Mom while we were alone in the kitchen. Mom just gave me that look, the one that says I'm being difficult. "She's a single mother, Charlie. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to raise a child? You're lucky you only have to worry about yourself." There it was again. I'm lucky to be stuck paying for 2 households on 1 salary, while everyone else gets to live their lives. The thing that really started making me suspicious was when Lily began mentioning deliveries. The delivery man comes to our house a lot now. Mommy says it's because she deserves nice things, while I'm over here calculating if I can afford to fix my car's AC, or if I should just sweat through another summer. I still wasn't sure what exactly was going on. Part of me thought maybe she had a shopping addiction or something, or maybe she was in some kind of trouble she wasn't telling me about. Either way, I decided I needed to find out the truth. The next time she asked me to babysit last minute for a work event, I agreed like always. I wasn't actually planning to snoop through my sister's stuff that day. I'm not that kind of person. But when I showed up to babysit Lily, some weird stuff was going on. First, Melissa was all dressed up, like way dressed up for a work event on a Thursday night. She had on this tight black dress I'd never seen before, fancy makeup, hair all done, and was wearing perfume that definitely cost more than the body spray she used to get from the mall. When I asked about it, she got super defensive. "Some of us care about our appearance, Charlie. Not everyone wants to look like they just rolled out of bed." For the record, I was wearing normal jeans and a clean t-shirt. Not exactly just rolled out of bed, but whatever. The second weird thing was that Lily seemed confused about where her mom was going. When Melissa said Mommy has to go to a work thing, Lily asked, "Is Marcus going to be there?" Melissa's face went white, like instantly. She snapped at Lily. "Go brush your teeth right now." Then she practically pushed me into the kitchen, saying we needed to discuss Lily's bedtime routine. Now I'm not stupid. "Who's Marcus?" I asked. "Just a coworker," she said quickly. "We're all going to this team building thing." She was lying. I've known Melissa my whole life, and she does this thing where she touches her earring when she lies. She was practically yanking on her earring at this point, but I let it go because Lily came back into the room, and I didn't want to start drama in front of her. Melissa left in a hurry, telling me not to wait up because these work things can go late. After I got Lily settled with a movie, I decided to look around a bit. Not full-on snooping, just observing. I wasn't opening drawers or anything. There was a men's jacket hanging in the hall closet. When I went to put Lily's sweater away, not like a jacket that could be unisex, a straight-up men's leather jacket. Size extra large? Melissa's ex Trevor was a medium at best. In the bathroom, I spotted men's body wash in the shower, and not the cheap stuff either. The fancy kind that costs like $15 a bottle. There was also a men's razor on the counter, but the real evidence was in the living room. While Lily was getting her pajamas on, I noticed some mail on the coffee table. One envelope was addressed to Marcus Jennings, same address as Melissa's apartment. This dude was getting mail at her place. That's not a casual thing. That's not a coworker. That's someone who's spending significant time there. When Lily came back for the movie, I casually asked, "Hey Lil, who's Marcus again? Is he one of Mommy's friends from work?" She gave me that adults are so dumb look that only kids can pull off. "No, Uncle Charlie. Marcus is Mommy's boyfriend. He sleeps over lots of times and makes pancakes in the morning." Well, there it was. My sister had a secret boyfriend, who apparently spent enough time at her place to get mail there and make breakfast. "Does Marcus buy you things?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Sometimes," she said, focused on picking a movie. He got me the robot that cleans the floor, and he took me and Mommy to the restaurant where they cook in front of you. He has a cool car too. So this guy was buying my niece gifts, taking them to expensive restaurants, and apparently had a cool car, while I was still paying Melissa's rent and utilities because she couldn't afford them. I felt sick to my stomach. For 5 years, I'd been sacrificing everything to help Melissa, thinking she was struggling. And now she had some boyfriend who was spending money on her and Lily, while I was still footing the bills for the necessities. The more Lily talked, the worse it got. Apparently, Marcus had been around for at least 6 months. He took them to the zoo after Melissa told me she couldn't afford Lily's field trip. He even took them on a weekend trip to a water park. The same weekend, Melissa told me she needed extra money because her hours got cut. I kept my cool in front of Lily. We watched the movie. I read her a story and tucked her in like everything was normal. But inside I was fuming. After Lily fell asleep, I looked around more deliberately. In Melissa's room, I found shopping bags in her closet, with receipts still in them, designer clothes, even a freaking iPad, all purchased in the last few months while I was eating ramen for dinner to save money. In her nightstand drawer, there were brochures for weekend getaways and a handwritten card that read, "Happy 6 months, babe. Can't wait for many more. Love, M." 6 months. She'd been dating this guy for half a year, while still taking my money. I grabbed my phone and started taking pictures of everything. The men's stuff in the bathroom, the mail, the shopping receipts, the card. I even took a picture of the dude's jacket. I wanted evidence when she inevitably tried to deny everything. Then I went through her Instagram. She wasn't posting pictures with any guy. But when I looked closer at her girls' night out photos, I could see the same dude in the background of several pictures. Not tagged, but definitely there. In one photo, you could even see his hand on her waist. Subtle sis, real subtle. I was still sitting there, scrolling through her social media, when I heard her key in the door around midnight. I quickly put everything back where I found it, and tried to look casual on the couch. She came in still all dressed up, looking slightly tipsy and very surprised to see me still awake. "Oh, you're still here. How was Lily?" "Great," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "We had a nice talk." She told me all about Marcus. The look on her face was almost worth the thousands of dollars I'd wasted on her. Then she went from denying everything, "He's just a friend," to minimizing it, "We've only been dating a few weeks," to finally admitting they'd been together for over 6 months. But the worst part was when she tried to justify keeping him a secret from me. "You're so judgmental, Charlie. I knew you'd make a big deal out of it." "A big deal? You've been taking my money for emergencies while spending it on dates with this guy. It's not like that. Marcus is going through a tough time financially right now. I've been helping him out sometimes. That's when I completely lost it. She was helping him with my money. So let me get this straight," I said, trying to stay calm. "I work overtime every week so you can pay your bills. But instead you're using that money to support some grown man who should be supporting himself?" She started crying then. Classic Melissa move. When logic fails, turn on the waterworks. She went on about how I didn't understand, how Marcus was amazing with Lily, how for the first time since Trevor left, she was happy, and how dare I try to ruin this for her. I told her I was done. No more money, no more bailouts, no more being her personal ally. She could figure out how to pay her own bills like every other adult on the planet. Of course, she called me every name in the book. Selfish, heartless, jealous because I didn't have anyone. That last one stung because maybe it was a little true. It's hard to date when you're working constantly and broke from supporting your sister. I left her apartment that night, thinking that was the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. The next morning, my parents called. Guess who had called them at 1 a.m. crying about how mean I was? They gave me a whole lecture about family supporting family and how I was being unreasonable. When I tried explaining about Marcus, they brushed it off like it was nothing. So she has a boyfriend? What's the big deal? She deserves some happiness after everything she's been through. Did everyone forget that I've been through stuff too? That I've put my entire life on hold for 5 years? For the next week, Melissa kept texting me about bills coming due. I ignored them all. My parents kept calling, leaving guilt-trippy voicemails about how Lily shouldn't suffer because I was being stubborn. I ignored those too. I was finally standing my ground, and it felt good. Then came Saturday. I was at home doing laundry when my doorbell rang. It was Melissa holding a fancy-looking cake box. "Can I come in?" she asked, actually looking remorseful for once. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She put the cake on my kitchen table and started this obviously rehearsed speech about how she was sorry for not telling me about Marcus and how she understood why I was upset. But couldn't we work something out? Maybe I could still help with rent until she got things sorted out. I stared at her in disbelief. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't just about your boyfriend. It's about the lying, the manipulating, using me for 5 years while hiding how you were really spending the money. That's not fair," she said, getting defensive again. "I did need help with necessities. Sure, not with fancy date nights and gifts for your boyfriend. Do you have any idea what I've given up for you? I've been living like I'm broke because I am broke after giving you all my money." "It wasn't all your money," she muttered. "Don't exaggerate." I laughed, actually laughed. "Melissa, I've given you over 35,000 glorts in the past 5 years. I calculated it." Her eyes got huge. I don't think she'd ever done the math. "Look," I said, "I'm not even asking for the money back. It's gone. But I'm done. You have a job, you have a boyfriend. Figure it out between the two of you." That's when she gestured to the cake box. "I got your favorite carrot cake from that bakery you like as a peace offering." I opened the box and sure enough, there was a fancy carrot cake inside. But something about it seemed off. "What's this really for?" I asked. "You've never brought me cake as an apology before." She fidgeted with her earring. "Just wanted to make things right." I noticed the cake had some writing on it, partially visible under the box lid. I opened it fully to read. "Happy 6-month anniversary," and the rest was smudged. It clicked instantly. "This is for Marcus, isn't it? Today is your 6-month anniversary with him." Her face went red. "Well, yes, but I thought we could share it. I'm trying to include you in my life." "Include me?" I was getting louder now. "You didn't even buy this for me. You bought it for your anniversary. And what? He canceled, so you thought you'd use it to butter me up instead." "Marcus didn't cancel," she snapped. "He's meeting me later." I just thought, "You thought you'd smooth things over with me so I'd keep paying your bills, then go celebrate with him using my favorite cake that I'm guessing you paid for with money I gave you for your electric bill last month. It's not like that," she yelled. "God, you're impossible. This is why I didn't tell you about him. You're so judgmental and controlling." "Controlling? I've let you walk all over me for 5 years. I'm not trying to control you. I'm just done being used by you." "Fine," she shouted. "Keep being a bitter, lonely loser jerk. Marcus loves me, which is more than anyone can say about you." That hurt more than I wanted to admit. "If Marcus loves you so much," I said with a cold smile, "then congratulations. You finally found someone else to be your ATM. Though I'm guessing he doesn't know that's his role yet. Maybe check if his credit score can handle the Melissa attacks before you get too attached." Her face contorted with rage, and before I could react, she grabbed the cake and smashed it directly into my face. Carrot cake went everywhere. In my eyes, up my nose, down my shirt. The heavy cake plate hit me hard enough to cut my lip. "Go to hell, Charlie," she screamed. "You think you're so much better than everyone. At least Marcus isn't a pathetic loser who has no life outside of work." I stood there, frosting dripping down my face in complete shock. 30 years old, and my sister was throwing cake at me, like a toddler having a tantrum. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, then turned back. "Don't expect to see Lily again if this is how you're going to be." That threat, using my niece as a weapon, was the final straw. "Get the fuck out," I said, my voice deadly calm despite the cake covering my face. "And don't come back until you're ready to act like an adult." After she left, I just stood in my kitchen, cake dripping onto my floor, wondering how my life had come to this. 5 years of sacrifice, and all I got was a cake to the face, and a threat to keep me from seeing my niece. I took a shower, washing frosting out of my ears and hair, and made a decision. This wasn't over. If Melissa wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. She'd taken advantage of me for years, but now she was about to find out what happened. When nice guy Charlie finally reached his breaking point, my phone started blowing up with texts from my parents. Apparently Melissa had already called them with her version of events, where I was cruel and unreasonable and she was the victim again. This time I didn't ignore them. I took a picture of my still red face with the cut on my lip and sent it to the family group chat with one message: This is what your daughter did when I said I wouldn't pay her bills anymore. Still think I'm the problem. Dad's response: you know how emotional she gets. You shouldn't have pushed her buttons. Classic. Melissa acts like a psycho, and somehow it's my fault for pushing her buttons by checks notes, not wanting to pay her bills anymore. I tried explaining about the boyfriend again, about how she'd been lying for months, about the shopping sprees and restaurants and trips. Their response was basically, well, that's between her and her boyfriend. No, it's between her, her boyfriend, and me, the guy who's been funding it all. Uncle Frank was the only one who took my side. He called. You pressing charges? Was his first question. I wasn't, obviously. She's still my sister, and Lily would be traumatized if her mom got arrested. But the fact that someone finally acknowledged how messed up the situation was meant a lot. Melissa, meanwhile, had launched a full PR campaign against me. She was telling everyone who would listen that I had abandoned her and Lily because I was jealous of her relationship. She even posted some vague crap on Facebooks about toxic family members and finding out who really loves you. I could have just walked away at this point, cut contact, lick my wounds, and try to rebuild my savings. But something in me had changed. I was done being the nice guy who takes the hit for everyone else. Uncle Frank met me for lunch a few days later. We were finishing our burgers. He looked at me real serious. Have you thought about what you're going to do next? Because your sister isn't just going to let this go. I shrugged. What can I do? The money's gone. Frank smirked. Maybe not. My buddy Jeffrey works at a debt collection agency. The legit kind, not the scammy ones. You got records of all the money you gave her? Every penny, I said. I've been tracking it in a spreadsheet for years. 3 days later, I was sitting across from Jeffrey, sliding a folder bulging with statements, Venmo receipts, and text screenshots across his desk. So your sister asked for money for rent emergencies while buying $300 shoes? He said, flipping through the evidence. And taking secret boyfriends to fancy restaurants, I added. And you have texts where she explicitly acknowledged these were loans. I pointed to a highlighted section. Melissa, I swear I'll pay you back when I get on my feet. Me? You said that last month. Melissa, I mean it this time. Perfect. I can work with this. I left his office with a spring in my step. For the first time in weeks, the official notice was delivered to Melissa's apartment 2 days later. Total owed $39,423.27, including reasonable interest. Payment due immediately. Failure to respond would result in credit reporting, potential wage garnishment, and other legal remedies. My phone rang approximately 18 minutes later. Are you freaking serious right now? Melissa's voice was so shrill, I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Hello to you too, sis. You sent a debt collector after me. Well, you know what they say, I replied casually. When someone throws cake in your face, send a professional to collect what they owe you, or something like that. This isn't funny. They're threatening my credit score. That is serious. Maybe you could ask Mom and Dad for help, or Marcus. He seems to enjoy funding your lifestyle, though I guess he thought he was dating an independent woman. Not someone who's been mooching off her brother for 5 years. The screaming that followed was impressive. I let her go for about 30 seconds before interrupting. Look, it's simple. You borrowed money. You didn't repay it. Now you have a debt. Welcome to adulthood, Melissa. Those weren't loans. They were family helping family. Funny, I have about 50 texts that say otherwise. She hung up. I smiled and silenced my phone, knowing the family nuclear meltdown was about to begin. It didn't disappoint. Mom and Dad called 17 times in the next hour. I finally answered while fixing myself a sandwich. Have you completely lost your mind? Dad bellowed without preamble. Hi, Dad. I'm doing well, thanks for asking. A debt collector against your own sister? Since she's allergic to personal responsibility, I thought I'd introduce her to professional responsibility. Mom cut in. Charlie, you need to call this off immediately. Melissa is absolutely distraught. So was I when she smashed cake in my face. And when she spent the money I gave her for rent on her secret boyfriend. But please tell me more about how I'm the bad guy here. This isn't who we raised you to be, Dad said gravely. You raised me to be a doormat? Weird. I must have missed that lesson. The conversation devolved from there. They cycled through guilt, threats, and appeals to family loyalty. You know what's really funny? I said eventually. I'm the only one who's ever held Melissa accountable for anything. Maybe if you'd done that years ago, we wouldn't be here. They hung up on me. Progress. Jeffrey called the next day. Your sister and her boyfriend came in, he said, sounding amused. Quite the performance, I bet. Let me guess. Tears, screaming, threats to call the police? All of the above. But the boyfriend pulled me aside and asked how much it would take to make this go away immediately. I nearly dropped my phone. Seriously? He seemed very concerned about her credit score, almost like he was planning something that required good credit. I told him a significant good faith payment would show seriousness, and he wrote a check for $5,000 on the spot. I burst out laughing. He what? Yep, and they signed a payment plan for the rest, $500 a month until it's paid off. Congratulations. You'll be getting about $350 a month after our fee. I hung up and did a victory dance around my living room. Best investment in a debt collector ever. Melissa's social media went suspiciously quiet after that. No more posts about toxic family. No more victim narratives, just radio silence. The first payment hit my account the following week. I immediately used it to fix my car's AC, which had been busted for 2 summers. The next month, I paid off one of my credit cards. The month after that, I started a savings account. My parents were still giving me the cold shoulder, convinced I'd committed some unforgivable sin against the sacred institution of family. Uncle Frank thought it was hilarious. They'll come around, he said during our fishing trip, or they won't. Either way, you're not bankrupt anymore. The best part? For the first time in 5 years, I can buy the good coffee at the grocery store without calculating how many of Melissa's bills that money could cover. Freedom tastes like premium dark roast, and it is delicious. Yes, the debt collector route is legit if you have proper documentation that the money was a loan, not a gift. Text messages where someone acknowledges it's a loan and promises to pay you back are legally binding in most states. Do your research and keep your receipts, people. Thanks for all the support. Feels good to know I'm not the only one who's had to deal with a financially draining family member. Shout out to Uncle Frank for the debt collector idea. Sometimes family helps family in the way they actually need, not the way they want.